This is the Journey to podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Zanati. I believe life is about the journey, not the destination. To find the journey in every step of the road, the highs and lows, the twists and turns, the ups and downs, it's in that. It's in those moments that really makes life so beautiful. Our guest today has a journey of their own. Jordan Norwood is a retired NFL wide receiver and Super Bowl 50 champion. Post-football, he started a photography business with his wife, Aleah. Please help me welcome them both, Jordan and Aleah Norwood, to the show. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us, Sean.
Thank you.
I want to first start off with talking about COVID life. What was that like for you guys being under the confinements of COVID in the sense of, I know that you work together, you're an entrepreneurs, you're parents. Some couples thrived well with COVID and some it was a little rocky. What was it like for you guys at the start of COVID and just adjusting to COVID life?
It's definitely an adjustment.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely some rocky moments there trying to figure things out. I think the biggest adjustment for us, I mean, fortunately, we're self-employed, like you said, and we kind of gig here and there with photography and videography. So that part didn't change a whole lot. We did have to make some adjustments, but the biggest adjustment for us, I think, was having our kids at home. Our kids are 5 and 4 years old, so they're typically at preschool every day. So having them home, and they're not quite at the age where they can successfully do online learning. There's no sitting them in front of a computer for very long. So that was probably the biggest adjustment and gave us the most headaches.
So the headache was adjusting with the kids, not necessarily really adjusting with the relationship or adjusting the business, or was it a little bit of all of that?
I'd say it was a little bit of all of that.
Yeah.
We actually took them with us on a few photo shoots. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Used to be a lot easier when they were just sit in a stroller, and now they want to run around and require more attention.
Yeah.
Was it the first time that you actually took your kids with you on shoots or engaged them in the business? Did that happen in the midst of this COVID life?
We started doing some family portraits.
Non-contact,
social distanced portraits where families would just come out on their front stoop or front porch or right in front of their front door. And we'd shoot, a quick 15, 20-minute session of family portraits. And, sometimes we just pulled up and left our kids in the car with their iPad and a couple snacks and, went for it. And they were, screaming from the car, and we just had to kind of not ignore them, but, work through it.
Trust me, I get it. I'm a mom and I'm also an entrepreneur. So I get it. You don't understand the entrepreneur life until you walk that walk. So right. I'm asking the questions because I'm on the other end walking the walk with you guys. So I understand completely. Oftentimes I feel like in the entrepreneur world, your kids, they grew up in there. They grew up in your business. They followed in your footsteps some way, some shape, and how, because it becomes a lifestyle and, it's just what you have to do to make it work. I'm interested in hearing about what you're just talking about, that no contact photography component. So were you, I guess, if you could take us to the mindset, COVID happens in the beginning, we're all thinking it's going to be 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks turns into, I guess, a month. And then, months later, and then here we are a year and a half later, and we're opening up, but who knows, we don't know what's the future holds. Did you think, okay, this is photography. How am I going to adjust my business to accommodate the times? And I'm assuming that's what happened. And they came up with this concept. Take us into that concept and then how it took off once you created the concept.
Sure. Well, I think the most direct adjustment or the way we felt the impact of COVID most immediately was we had weddings canceled. So we were supposed to shoot 2 or 3 weddings in 2020 that boom, canceled just like that. And for anybody that has had a wedding or been to one, they probably know that those are, the majority of a photographer's income would be from big events like that. So that kind of threw us into the space of, okay, how are we going to pivot from here? What could we do to replace that income? And I think Aleah, you might have seen somebody on Instagram or somewhere.
It's like a mommy's group that I'm in on Facebook or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for a front porch photo session. And I was like, hey, you know what? People don't want to leave their houses, but they want to remember this time. they're home with their families.
Yeah.
Let's just pull up in front of their house. We don't even have to like shake hands or go near them. They don't have to go near us. We'll all wear masks until they take them off for the pictures. And then we just knocked out 15 minutes of photos and got back in our car and left.
Yeah. I mean, it really worked out. And yeah, I guess it was the mommy's group.
Yep.
The mommy's group was a hit.
Hooked us up.
So as a result of that, has that become is that the strategy? Is that your new business strategy at this point right now? Is that kind of what you're focusing on at this moment with your photography business?
We still do a bit of it. And kind of from those sessions, we've kind of, I mean, photography for us is a lot of word of mouth. We don't do any marketing. So from those sessions have come more family sessions and high school senior portraits, and just kind of random offshoots of family portraits that you kind of get when you
building that relationship.
Yeah, when you show that you can shoot, handle kids and direct adults, then you get all types of business headshots and everything else. So kind of open the door to a few more relationships.
What advice can you give someone who may be watching or listening? What's some tips, maybe 3 tips you can provide if you want to get started in the business, photography business? What can you do to get started? What's the best way to get going and thrive in the business?
Use your friends and your family as subjects and offer your friends free shoots and put those pictures out there, and they're going to start telling their friends and families. And before you know it, you'll have a booked client.
On the technical side of things, I would say don't go buy a brand new camera body and all these different lenses before you really know what, not only what you're doing, but what you like to do. Because, you might find out that you like to shoot portraits in a certain style that only really requires one lens and one camera body, and that's all you need. So I would say start with gently used equipment, and that's the way to go. That's 2.
Less is more.
Less is more.
Yeah, it kind of goes with yours, but also in like a setting standpoint, like you don't need to like go to this elaborate setting or, just take some front porch photos.
Right. Yeah. The subject is the subject.
Yep.
Yeah.
In other words, you're saying just do it, just start, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Did you know, I know for you, Jordan, you're a retired NFL player. Did you know that once you retired, you would be shifting over into photography? Was that a passion of yours?
I guess it always was. I studied graphic design in college, so I would always edit pictures for my college football teammates and high school basketball teammates. I would make posters for people. So I was always into that creative space. But then late there in my NFL career, my wife bought me a camera, and I kind of became like a third cameraman for the Denver Broncos. I would, take pictures of guys, when everybody was in their suits for away games, trying to look sharp. I would take their pictures and run on the plane and throw them on my computer and edit them and send them out to everybody.
Really?
Before we took off, so that they could post them on Instagram.
You were the team photographer for your teammates while you were playing in the NFL, but just not officially.
Very unofficially. There were several very great photographers that were on staff with the Broncos and guys that inspired me. Gabe Christus is the photographer there now, and he's gave me so many tips and tricks. And I was just another camera that was there. So.
That is so cool, though. I mean, so clearly you had the passion, you already had the gift and the skill set, clearly. So you were taking the photos, sending them to your teammates, and they would then take your photos and post them on Instagram and on social media.
Yeah, quite a bit.
That is so awesome. Are you still working with any of your former teammates now?
Yeah, we have a few teammates who have, full families that we do quite a bit of work with on a regular basis, and mostly guys that are there in the Denver area.
What was it like for you going from NFL, the football player, to then being retired? I do know for me as a my actual job as a publicist, my clients who, no matter if it's basketball or football or baseball, literally every client that I have, that when they leave and they shift over, it is literally a transition that I watch them go through professionally, the mental component of what they have to deal with. When did you know, okay, I'm going to retire, it's time? And once you made that decision, what was it like for you in the transition of mentally, of shifting from this NFL player to then retired NFL player, now entrepreneur?
It's a great question, and it was an interesting transition. To the first part of your question, we probably knew that I would retire probably midway through my last season here with the Broncos in 2016. My contract was going to be up, and we had one kid and another one on the way, so we were kind of, let's wrap this up and get on with our life, which was fine. The transition from the NFL into kind of entrepreneurship and photography for me definitely took some humility. When you're in the NFL and playing in front of tens of thousands of people on a regular basis, and them kind of cheering you on, to go from that to pulling up to a photo shoot for a 17-year-old high school senior, and getting out of the car and then looking at you like, okay, so you're actually going to take my pictures, like we're actually paying you to take my pictures for my high school senior portraits. It's there definitely has to be some kind of ice breaking in those first 15 minutes, kind of to where they trust that I'm a professional, that we're professionals, that I carry myself personally the same way as I did when I was, playing professional football, and that, this is going to be a successful photo shoot because I know what I'm doing. We know what we're doing. It's definitely been a journey.
When you go on a shoot, sometimes do people ask you automatically, can I have your autograph? Can I take a picture with you? Is it kind of turned into fanfare when you're there to actually do a job?
I would say that typically doesn't happen. There's been several photo shoots where the client doesn't know that I was a football player in a past life at all. There's been photo shoots where, and the majority of them are people that we knew or that do know me from football. So that might come up a little bit, but it's typically not a autograph situation. And there's other situations where people think that Aleah's the main photographer, and they're kind of leaning on her. And she's also a photographer in our business, obviously. But I usually lead our shoots, and so that takes another little bit of ice breaking. They're like, oh wait, he's kind of talking more.
Do you think that's because of the fact that they are associating you as an athlete?
Sometimes, but not necessarily. Just the way we operate our business, Aleah communicates with clients more than I do. So I think it's only natural for that reason too, that they're ready to communicate with her more than me, because she's typically done most of the communication to that point anyways.
But you do the directing once you guys get on set?
Typically, yeah.
Got it.
Unless it's babies, then.
Okay, that's not your forte. I get it. Hey, everybody has a little part that's their best for them. So yeah. As long as you realize it, acknowledge it, then you can thrive.
Right.
So switching gears a bit, when you decided that you were going to be an entrepreneur, and you then decided to then leave the NFL, retire, what was that process like for you though? I guess I'm going back to that mentally. Was it just an easy shift? Were you just, okay, this is great? Or, I mean, I'm sure, day in and day out, that's all you knew, have known was football. So then to wake up and that's not your routine. What was that like for you? And how long was that transitional process like for you before it became the new norm?
I think I'm still transitioning.
Okay.
I don't know when that will. I mean, I played organized sports every year for 30 years up until 3 years ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if that took longer than a year or two to adjust out of. But for me, I think the biggest change was the structure. And you might have some insight onto what the biggest change was for me, but yeah, not having the structure of be here at this time, do this for this long, and you'll get this result, that I kind of have when I'm, going to football practice or working out in the gym to get a certain result. It kind of frustrated me at times, not being able to have that structure. So
That's
I'm just a little
interesting.
more laid back. So he would come home, and we wake up at 7:30 and we're like, our 1-year-old daughter, I think we'll have some breakfast and go to the playground and then see, how she's doing. And, who knows what we'll do after that. And he's like, wait, there's no structure in your day? No, none, really.
Yeah.
that was an adjustment.
Yeah.
And probably still an adjustment. I didn't even think about that until you said that. That's such a good point. Probably for every athlete, you're constantly into structure mode from the time you're a kid. Practice this time, training at this time. I mean, from the time you're 6, 7 years old, and then right as a creative, you just go with the flow, and if there is no structure, that probably is that's a huge transition because there's no middle ground, there's no gray area in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're fine. You're looking for it now. So what are you doing on the search for your gray area? What does that look like for you?
I think for me in finding the gray area, well, for us, I think it's mostly on me. I think the first wedding, we shot photography together. I wanted Aleah to have, 6 batteries in her pocket, charged up, ready in case of battery, a backup, memory card, a shot list attached to her hip that had every list of every photo that she's going to make sure she takes. And I've calmed down from that, and I've learned to go with the flow, and there's parts of that are good, of course. It's good to be prepared, of course, but there's a level of preparedness that borders on being an annoying husband. So I try not to do that.
Oh, that was such an amazing response. So really, you guys, you're really in the process right now. As I'm asking you this question, you're in the process of really trying to find your balance. You're trying to figure it out. And
COVID kind of threw another little wrench into the plan. Well, not the plan, but just the finding that comfort in the gray area, I guess.
Yeah, I think we're pretty comfortable at this point.
Yeah.
For me, I hate to use sports analogies over and over, but being in a team sport, I'm always like, okay, I have this role, you have this role, we don't both need to do the same role. So like I said, Aleah does a lot of the communicating with clients, setting up shoots and scheduling and that type of thing. And then once we get to a shoot, we kind of know our roles and how to, play off one another. And, they go really smoothly now. So, I think we're about there.
Well, I think that's great. About there is great. I think that's beautiful. I know that you have a health and wellness company that's called Majic. Tell us about that company. What separates your wellness company from other companies?
Yeah, so we started Majic Wellness about 2 years ago. Started it mostly because I was using holistic wellness products, namely CBD products, towards the end of my NFL career there. And really, the reason we started it was because we couldn't find products that were potent enough in CBD and had 0 THC in them and had what the jar said was in the jar. If it was a topical product, it was just a lot of sketchy products out there in the CBD industry, and there still are. There's still products that
I didn't know that.
People say they've tried this and they're like, it didn't work for me at all. And I'm like, well, how much CBD did it say is in there? So there's a whole kind of issue in the industry, I would say, just in terms of a lot of products not being potent enough just because they want to sprinkle a little bit of CBD in there and say that there's CBD so that they can sell it. Because CBD was, kind of in a year ago.
I didn't know that. So you're saying there's a lot of products, CBD products, that has a certain, it says there's a certain amount of CBD in there, but it's really not.
Yeah, either there, it says a certain amount and there possibly isn't, for a few different reasons, or it says what there is actually in the product and it's just
not strong enough.
It's a negligible amount of CBD. So to where one of our products has 3,000 milligrams of CBD, I would say the typical product that I see on the shelf that's a similar product has probably 500 or 250 milligrams of CBD in it, in like one of those little one fluid ounce tincture bottles.
So you just wouldn't feel the results from it.
Typically 500, and you're saying yours would be 3,000.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So your target customer, is it usually athletes, or what does your target audience look like essentially?
Well, I mean, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
The kind of the symptoms that CBD and hemp and other cannabinoids address are so ubiquitous. I mean, pain, inflammation, anxiety, being distracted, those type of things are so ubiquitous. I mean, who doesn't, suffer from, one or two or all of those symptoms. So the target initially was athletes. Obviously, that's how I kind of started using some of the products. But we've kind of found as we've gone and marketed that, it might be men and women over 65 that are using our products more than anybody else, which is interesting in itself and awesome to be able to help people.
I know you guys are going on a long road trip this summer. Can you share about like what does that road trip look like? And I know you have, 2 children. So, what do the stops look like? What are your family road trips consist of? And, kind of take us into that world.
We are in Minnesota right now visiting my family. We've been here for the whole month of June. And we are heading to Maryland, not road tripping there, flying there for the week next week to visit Jordan's family. And then we are coming back to Minneapolis and driving to the West Coast. So we might need to check back in a few weeks and let you know how that's going.
We do know, I'm sure the same thing came to mind in terms of how our road trips go. And we need barf bags for our kids. Yes,
our 4-year-old tends to get car sick. So.
Yeah, so that's
okay. So you have I thought you were joking, but you're serious. So you have barf bags for your 4-year-old. Okay. Yeah. And what else?
One thing we've established.
Okay.
We also have a little 20-pound Labradoodle dog. Wow. So she's awesome and just tags along and doesn't really need too much. We're going to stop like every 4 or 5 hours. So we won't have like super long times that we're in the car. Going to kind of take our time getting to the West Coast. Yeah.
Is there a symbolism behind road trips for your family? Was there a reason why you guys do road trips as opposed to, getting on the airplane and taking and, flying in the summer?
That's a good question. No, I mean, we do enjoy the time together. We're excited to see, parts of the country that, we'd rather not see from the airplane flying over them. We'll stop in Yellowstone National Park. We'll go to Salt Lake City where we've never been. Big Sur, California is somewhere we're excited to drive through. So there's a lot of stops that will make that, they wouldn't have been a part of the vacation at all if we were flying anywhere.
And we have the time to do it. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love that answer. Especially your follow-up component. That was the icing on the cake. You said, but we have the time. We have the time to do it. It's so beautiful. Exactly what you said too. Essentially you guys are making vacations out of the vacation because you're right. You get on an airplane, it's from point A to point B. You get on a road trip. You guys are making your point A to Z. You're having all these stops in between, which that's beautiful. Even if it's some barf in the middle of there.
We'll make it.
How do you dive deep individually, separate from each other? What do you guys do to one, to stay grounded, and two, to just kind of flow in your own space so that you're able to give to each other fully, and then give to your kids and to your clients and to the world as well?
I think for me, well, for both of us, first of all, I mean, this is all a faith journey for our family and for us, and for our relationship. We love Jesus, and hopefully that shows in the way we interact with people and everything. So there's that. For me personally, I would say as of this calendar year, it's really been waking up early for me. I'm now like a 5-6 a.m. wake up and read and learn about something, maybe work out, hopefully work out, always work out. I always work out. And, so for me, I need to get up early. I need to beat my kids awake, really. Is if I don't wake up before my kids, then for me, I'm not gonna have any time to myself, or not even gonna want to have any time to myself. So yeah, those between 5 and 7:30 a.m. are my kind of refuel hours. And yeah, you can talk. I mean, we can talk about our date nights.
Definitely just being, rooted in our faith is definitely number one, and making sure that we're allowing each other to have that time, which I like to take my sleep in the morning. But getting outside for me is rejuvenating, and we definitely, try to fit in a date night every week or every other week, where we have time to like look each other in the eye and actually have a conversation, where our kids aren't in the same room. It's helpful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Have you guys, did the date night just start post, I guess I'm saying post-COVID, but I know we're kind of still in the midst of it, however you want to look at it. But did that happen after that, or have you always done date night? Has that been something you guys have always done?
I think we've always done it, but COVID kind of reinforced our need of it, I think.
Yeah. We've always done it, and every once in a while we'll do family date nights too, where everybody will kind of, put on an outfit and we'll go out to dinner all together to a nicer restaurant, maybe a restaurant where there aren't even many kids at all.
Yeah, and the kids know that date nights are really special for us, so they like consider it a treat when they get to go on family date nights. So it's a special night for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That makes sense, because you're teaching your kids. What you guys are doing is you're showing your children that your love, really, that you guys come first. And so that it's important for you guys to do that. And they realize that and respect that. So that's great. So they can follow that same trend. What advice can you give to someone who may be listening, another husband and wife team who may be out there and not knowing how they can thrive, or how do they thrive during times together if they're also working together and having all, juggling husband, wife, and parent, and even if it's not entrepreneur, but work, and just all the different things that come along with that. How would you advise, what are some things that couples can do to thrive in the times?
I would say it would start with intentionality. I don't think that, for us, date nights aren't going to happen just by happenstance. We're not going to fall into a babysitter that calls us up and is like, "Hey, I would love to watch your kids tonight." So I think it starts with intentionality, intentionally working on yourself. So that might be for me, it's intentionally waking up early. And then on each other, it's intentionally finding time to communicate with one another, and intentionally setting certain examples for your kids. And it might mean writing goals down as a couple, as an individual. That's not something that we've done, but some way to make sure that there's intention behind, your daily and weekly actions.
I think also just being intentional about counting your blessings and like considering the time, whether it's all the time that you have together, like morning to night, if you're working together, or if you have separate jobs and, you don't see each other until you're cooking dinner for your kids and your husband comes home and it's crazy. And then you don't have time together until 9 p.m. It's like, whatever time you do have, just like being grateful for it and seeing the silver lining in everything, and maybe being able to step back and see like the big picture of things. And yeah, that kind of goes with the goals. Like, what are you working towards as a family and as a couple? So.
Yeah.
I would like to wrap up with a segment that I call Tell and Tell, which is a play on the word show and tell. What is something that you guys can tell us about yourselves that has deeply impacted you, that no one knows about, a secret, if you will, that you can share with the audience?
One thing that I do on a daily basis is write down prayers. So I typically pray, but I write them out as I pray, so that I make sure that what mostly stems from me saying to someone, I'll pray for you, or even saying to a situation, pray for Miami, Florida, and making sure that I go and actually do that. It helps me if I write things down and write through my prayers. So for me, every morning, I pray and I write out my prayers so that I can go back and read it and, kind of really meditate on those things.
For me, it's, and I haven't been as faithful in this practice lately. It's easier when I'm walking my kids to school, but just like speaking truth into their lives, whether that's like praying out loud with them while we're walking, or, talking about how beautiful of a day it's going to be, or just talking really to them about the day and the week and our blessings and what we're grateful for, and making sure that they're saying it out loud too brings me joy.
Don't cry now.
I almost did.
Now you're gonna make me cry. That was sweet. Oh, yeah, that was amazing. It's, as a mom, I guess that is your biggest joy, is your children, right? And you speaking those affirmations to your children, they receive that. So that's amazing. Well, if someone wants to follow you both on your journey, how can they do that? How can they follow you? What's the best way to reach you? Yeah.
Right. The easiest way is our Instagram. Mine is Jordan Orwood, and yours is Aleah Norwood, right? So yeah, pretty straightforward. We're pretty open to communicating with people.
Absolutely.
Via Instagram comments and DMs and that. So
well, you will have me following along in your journey and seeing how your road trip is going. I would love to see the outcome of that. I thank you guys for being on the show and being vulnerable and sharing your story with us. It's really, really, really amazing. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Ron.
Thank you both. Well, that is it for this episode of the Journey to a podcast. I'm going to leave you with words that my father would so often say to me, and that's to be the best version of you that you can be. Until next time, folks, let that sizzle in your spirit.